All right, guys, welcome back to week number 1 of our great online course. Just wanted to give you a quick reminder of what we've already discussed, and that is multiplying and dividing rational expressions. This is what we left off on before we had all this stuff went down with the coronavirus. And so I just wanted to maybe pick up where we left off and just give you a couple of examples. This should help you with your con practices that you have to do this week. But if you remember, we have to factor the top and the bottom of each parenthesis, or each fraction, Some you can factor, some you can't. So let's start off with this top left one, this x squared minus x minus 6. If you remember, in order to factor that, you had to figure out what multiplied to negative 6, and the same two things had to add up to negative 1. Because remember, there is a negative 1 right there in front of the x. And through a little bit of thinking, if you came up with negative 3 and positive 2, you are correct. And so that factors into x minus 3 and x plus 2. Now, the bottom, you can't necessarily factor that same way. So because we don't have an x squared there, it's just 5x minus 5. But there is a GCF there. And so what we're looking for is what can I divide out of 5x and 5? And the answer to that is just 5. And if I divide this 5x by 5, I just have x left over. And if I divide this 5 by 5, I just have minus 1. And then that is factored. Okay? Now, what we're looking for is we are looking for stuff that is the same on top and on bottom. Okay, now, that also includes numbers that are outside parentheses. If we can find anything that's the same on those, we can also cross those out. This really could put parentheses around that too, because the x and the 3 are kind of together. And so, if we have something on top, like this x minus 3 and this x minus 3 and this 5 and this 5, I can then just cancel those out. Cross them out, cross them out, cross the 5s out, cross the 5s out. I can't cross anything else out because there is nothing that is identical on top and bottom. So my final answer would be x plus 2 divided by x minus 1. You can either put the parentheses or not, but I like to put them because it kind of shows us that the x and the 2 are together. Now, it might be a temptation to cross these x's out because they are identical on top and bottom. However, because the x and the 2 are kind of paired together in this parentheses, you can only cancel out the x if you can cancel out the 2 as well. And so since this is x minus 1 and this is x plus 2, we consider those to be two different things, and therefore nothing can be crossed out because not all of it can be crossed out on either top or bottom. All right. So my answer would be x plus 2 over x minus 1. I just want to go over one more example here. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're just going to factor this stuff. So we're going to factor the top, and actually on this one, we can factor the bottom as well. So for the top, x squared minus 9, we're looking for two things that multiply to negative 9. And since there's no middle term right there, like there is on the bottom here, we have that 2x. There's nothing in the middle, and so we have to think think of that as 0. So what two numbers are going to multiply to negative 9 and add up to 0? And those would be negative 3 and positive 3. And so we're going to put those in our parentheses up here on top, x minus 3, x plus 3. And we're going to do the same thing on the bottom, x squared minus 2x minus 8. So what two numbers are going to multiply to negative 8? Those same two numbers have to add up to negative 2. I would challenge you to maybe pause the video and see if you can figure that out before I write them in right now. So if you paused and tried to figure that out, you should have gotten negative 4 and positive 2 as your answers. And so we would go x minus 4 on here and x plus 2. And then we also have this over here, the x minus 4 and x minus 3. Remember, these kind of are their own parentheses. And again, we're looking for stuff that is the same. We're looking for stuff that's the same. So I see an x minus 4 and an x minus 4. That can cross out. An x minus 3 and an x minus 3. Those also can cross out. My final answer being x plus 3 divided by x plus 2. Okay. And again, I can't cross out the x's because I've got to cross out the x and the 3 together, and I can't do that because it's x plus 2 on bottom. Hope that helped. Good luck on the common practices. If you have any questions, let me know, either in Google Classroom, here in the video, and we'll be talking to you later.